This story is actually very interesting because not often you see a company as large as Dow that cooperates and actually scales up significantly with a startup from a country that Dow has nothing, almost nothing to do in. So let's start with this. Yaron, tell us about the Mobideo platform and obviously how Dow is using it.
Hi everyone. So Industry 4.0 is all about connectivity, and rather than focusing on connecting things, we focus on connecting what we believe is the biggest asset of any company, and these are people. So we focus on connecting the workforce, meaning connecting workers to one another, connecting workers to the information that they need to get the job done right, and connecting managers to information so they can make better educated decisions based on data. So we support owner-operators in a variety of industries and basically digitalizing very, very complicated and collaborative use cases such as capital projects and shutdowns, turnarounds, and outages. Specifically at Dow, we're now a platform, so we are connected into a bunch of Dow's IT systems. We've been deployed across a variety of use cases and plants, anything from daily activities such as inspections, preventive maintenance, corrective maintenance, all the way up to very strategic capital projects, shutdowns, and turnarounds.
Excellent, very interesting. So Mobideo, being a small startup relatively, especially to Dow, Yochai, what from the Dow perspective are you seeing from the implementation of Mobideo's platform?
Yeah, we obviously see great benefits from the implementation with Mobideo. Let's be honest, we're not an easy company to work with. So we're a 120-year young company, chemical producer based in the Midwest. Probably doesn't get more conservative than that. And our operations are very complex. Our turnaround are heavy. We have many people touching the assets, and those are very capital-intensive activities. I don't know, I mean, some of the pictures you see here, not behind me, but over there might be some of our plants, but this is more or less what it looks like. So what Mobideo was able to bring to the table is really to help us streamline the process. How do we make sure that all the people that are involved actually follow the process? How do we make sure that they're productive? How do we make sure that they're safe? Again, in very complex situations. Beyond that, obviously the standardization across the board. We have more than 100 manufacturing facilities around the world, and we want to standardize processes. And Mobideo was able to help us with that. And then last but not least, the analytics that the Mobideo engine brings to the table allowed us to make better decisions on the spot and improve our overall processes. So we definitely see the benefits from that.
Oh, very impressive. So Yaron, with this kind of testimonial for a conservative client, it's interesting to know that you have been able to scale up across Dow plants. Tell us how you did it and what the process that drove to it.
Yeah, so it's been a journey, still is a journey, and a fascinating one. We started 4 years ago at a small project. I met a guy who met a guy, you know, that's how it always starts. And we focused on solving a specific problem for Dow's mothership plant at Freeport, Texas. And apparently that was very successful, created value even beyond what we first imagined. And that got a lot of attention. And over a course of 2 years, that became viral. And we were deployed across the entire Gulf of Mexico region. We have 3 production plants and pipelines in between. And kind of virally, we grew and have been implemented across the board. And at that point, it caught the attention of Dow Corporate. And Dow Corporate came and said, okay, what's going on here? I mean, why are you doing this? And obviously, you know, the Dow's people at the plant level, you know, told them what they see. We went through a series of very, very challenging, you know, loops to jump through in terms of Dow's due diligence. And then we were embraced by Dow Corporate as an IT solution, which is connected to other systems. Dow IT has a organization within their group that actually is responsible for the implementation and the rollout of Dow, of Mobideo. And now we're rolled out by corporate IT across the organization to all sites and use cases.
It's all about getting through to become a part of the IT organization.
It's basically working with the business to create value, and the focus is value, value, value. And then at a certain point, you kind of cross the Rubicon and you can't be ignored, and then you need to fit in into the kind of broader themes that are part of what Dow is doing. And once we, made those connections and realized that there's a match between our vision, our strategy, how we see things, and how Dow sees things, then it was a natural kind of evolution of the relationship, and we became part of Dow's broader IT landscape.
Very interesting.
If I may add something to that point, because I think it's very relevant around the value creation. As much as I would love, as the, I guess, managing director of Dow in Israel, to take credit for any of the work that you guys, Mobideo, did with Dow, I have nothing to do with it. And the point I want to make is the relationship started well before we established our operation in Israel. And the work that Mobideo did with Dow actually is helping now to pave the way for other Israeli companies. So Israel was not on the radar screen for Dow. We did not start to work with Mobideo because they're Israeli. Actually has nothing to do with it. But now, all of a sudden, I can tell you, I'm hearing from my colleagues and from executives in Houston and in Michigan that the innovation ecosystem in Israel is gaining credibility because of the work that Mobideo did. So the point I wanted to make is that we are now more open for business with Israeli companies, thanks to you and thanks to the value that you're able to create. And that's really what it's all about, creating value, listening, being agile enough, and that helps to pave the way for other companies as well.
Super interesting. So what I'm hearing basically is that Dow has future plans to work with other companies in Israel and to look at this industry. Can you share with us the roadmap and the way you're going to go about it?
Sure. So one thing I wanted to share is that we have, I don't know how much of you know Dow, but we merged with DuPont and then we spun off. There's a lot of complexities. We have new leadership. We have two business strategic initiatives. Digitalization is one of them. The second one, by the way, is sustainability, but I'll leave that for a separate panel. When it comes to digitalization, we identified obviously that there's a big gap. We can't do everything ourselves. Again, we're a large conservative company. We need to work with smart people, with startups, but we don't know how to bridge that gap, how to bridge that chasm, which is exactly what this panel is about. So what we started doing a couple of years ago, we started opening what we call digital operation centers, DOCs, that help to bridge that gap between startups and corporate. Those are centers that look semi-Dow, semi-Google in terms of the people and the vibe in the office, some bin bags, but still some chemical, whatever. And they're based right behind our plants. And it allows us to pilot some initiatives. We have one in Houston, which is actually, quite honestly, one of the main reasons for the success of this partnership. We opened one in Shanghai, not in Shanghai, but in China, or in Asia, I should say, a few months ago. And I'm happy to semi-share here that we're about to open one in Europe in the coming weeks. So not far ahead, but literally in the coming weeks. And the activities in Israel related to Industry 4.0 are definitely a key part of that center. So when it comes to Industry 4.0, we're now not only have the interest and the case study, but also the foundations and the resources to actually follow through, run some pilots, run POCs, and get things done. So I guess the call to action I would make here is that we're open for business.
So who are you calling to? What kind of solutions are you looking for?
So actually our interest is quite broad when it comes to Industry 4.0. It's everything from sensors and optics, robotics, confined spaces maintenance, drones and things along those lines, all the way to AI, analytics, predictive maintenance. All the things that I mentioned are a big part of the technologies that we're looking at. We're also looking at technologies to help us streamline our supply chain and logistics. I don't know how many of you know the logistics industry or supply chain industry for the chemical space. I would just say that there's a lot of opportunities there for improvement, and I'm being very delicate. And those are probably two key areas that are of great interest to us.
Very interesting. Yaron, turning back to you, not only Dow, but you have other very interesting customers. And I would like to have you share with us how Mobideo was able to get this impressive success in partnering with conglomerates like Dow in different areas, regions in the world, and what are your takeaways and recommendations to people in the audience trying to do the same?
Yeah, so by definition, we sell to very large companies, and as Yochai said, probably Dow is the most conservative one, but by definition, we sell to owner operators in process industries, and they're big companies. And I mean, from my observation, there are certain things which are really important to make relationships scalable as we have with Dow, when we have some other examples as well, such as Koch Industries and Chevron Phillips and Dell QS and others. I'd say a few things. One is, it might be trivial, but it's not value, meaning that those companies have passed the stage of looking for pilots, have passed the stage of looking for interesting things. You need to be able to create value in millions and tens of millions of dollars. Otherwise, you're not relevant. So you need to be able to, focus on this value creation, which is key. The second is understanding that selling to such a big corporation means not only selling the use case to the end user, the guys who are on the front lines, dealing with a challenge. I mean, that's something which is the first thing to do. But the real thing that has to be added is understanding what are the corporate initiatives, what is the corporate trying to achieve, how do you fit into the corporate initiatives beyond just this use case, and understanding that you need to speak different languages. One language is the language of the people who are dealing with the specific problem you're solving, i.e. the business. And the second language, and that's a complete separate discussion, is with corporate, who's looking beyond just an initial use case and is looking at a longer vision, at longer problem solving, and kind of wearing those two hats and analyzing in the organization what exactly is the need is key. And the third, I would say, is finding this subtleness between being innovative and playing the corporate game. We're not SAP, and Dow is partnering with us because we're not SAP. So we don't need to be shy of that, okay? Big US corporations, big national corporations partner with us because of our chutzpah, because of our innovation, because we will lead from the front. But at the same time, we need to understand the corporate game, understand the corporate rules, and kind of balance in between. I have an interesting conversation with my customers. They tell me, Yaron, you are my commando team. You are my commando team, and I expect from you to do things, right, that a commando team can do that I cannot do with my army. So we're expected to be innovative. We're expected to lead from the front and to be trailblazers, but doing it in a way that has a lot of respect and kind of being humble, understanding that you're catering and you're partnering with a big corporate. What are the main themes and how to kind of balance those two themes? I think that's something which is key to growing those relationships successfully.
Very interesting. I want to ask you, what one of the things you mentioned, that is to make sure you have a true corporate interest. How do you know that? How do you make sure that you are talking to the right person and they have the right budget and the right plans to fit you in and your solution going forward, not for a pilot?
Speak with people. Just have as many engagements, as many touch points as you can. Be completely open, be completely sincere, don't hide anything, and tell people, guys, I don't want to waste your time, don't waste my time. Tell me what your agendas, tell me what are your pain points, tell me what should I be careful of. If you think you have anything that looks competitive, let me know. So to have as many healthy engagements with as many people as possible, and then kind of synthesize all of that into a holistic strategy of how do I work with my customer.
Interesting. Yochai, just to end off here, one last question. From perspective of a conglomerate like Dow, how come or why is Israel interesting in terms of solutions for I4? How do you sort of bridge this conflict between being a small industrial country and yet generating these amazing solutions?
Yeah, it's a good question. And it's a question that I get asked many times in our headquarters. Why Israel? You don't have that large manufacturing footprint. We bring the large manufacturing footprint as Dow.
Yeah.
Now we have the capability to bring some of the technology into the manufacturing footprint with the DOC, Digital Operations Centers. But I think really the main point is everything that Yaron just mentioned. We as Dow are looking for technologies. In Industry 4.0, unlike in R&D, IP, it's a place that we feel more comfortable collaborating with smaller companies because there's no issue of IP and so on and so forth, and the whole issue of not invented here, which exists in other spaces. And we're looking for that, commando team to be agile enough to create value, but really also to Yaron's point, and I think that's a key point for the Israeli companies here, to really listen. So my advice would be, don't try to sell your product. Really understand what the corporate is looking for listen carefully, make sure that they notice that you listen carefully, and then come up with ideas, solutions to address and show impact in a relatively short time. So when it comes to Israel, that combination of chutzpah, but also with respect for large corporations, the technical know-how and the agility are probably the key factors I would mention.
Great. So exactly, our time is up. Thank you very much. And if you have more questions for them, scaling up partnerships, working with Dow, feel free to approach. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thanks,